The latest taping of Jimmy Kimmel Live was expected to be just another routine celebrity appearance. Harrison Ford, known for his iconic roles in Indiana Jones and Star Wars, was the featured guest. The audience was thrilled, cheering wildly as he walked on stage. Dressed in his usual no-nonsense attire, Ford gave a small wave and took his seat next to Kimmel. The two began with casual banter, exchanging laughs about Harrison's flying hobby and aging action roles. But things quickly took a sharp turn when Jimmy, in his usual sarcastic tone, made a joke about Harrison's recent comments on Hollywood's direction. What was supposed to be lighthearted teasing suddenly struck a nerve. "Well, I just think it's funny how a guy who hates all the Hollywood attention keeps coming back every time there's a sequel," Kimmel said with a grin. Harrison paused, looked him dead in the eye, and replied, "I come back for the work, not for clowns making a paycheck off others' legacies." The audience gave a mixed reaction, some laughs, some awkward gasps. Kimmel chuckled awkwardly, trying to steer things back with another joke, but Ford didn't flinch. Instead, he leaned forward and said, "You've got a studio built on making fun of people who've actually built something. Maybe try being original?" Kimmel raised his eyebrows, clearly taken aback. Trying to recover, Jimmy asked about Ford's latest film, but the mood had already shifted. Harrison's responses were sharp and curt, and the charm was replaced with barely concealed irritation. Then Kimmel said, "You know, people say you're kind of a grump, but you seem more like a full-time grudge machine tonight." Ford snapped back, "I'd rather be a grump than a phony with a cue card." The audience reacted with stunned laughter, unsure if it was a joke or serious. It was clear Harrison was not playing along. Jimmy attempted to laugh it off, saying, "Someone's having a bad day," to which Ford replied, "No, I'm just allergic to nonsense." The temperature in the studio seemed to drop. Jimmy, clearly flustered, tried changing the subject to something more neutral, asking about Ford's legacy and career, but Ford had already shifted into full honesty mode. "Legacy?" he said. "I've watched this industry rot from the inside. You either play along with the circus or they label you difficult. I never needed talk shows to stay relevant." The crowd was now silent. Jimmy looked off camera, likely toward producers. Ford, meanwhile, looked calm, unapologetic. For a man known for avoiding press when possible, his words cut deep, and this was no scripted PR tour. He had come to say something real. At this point, producers were visibly uneasy. The control booth was flashing signals to wrap things up early. Jimmy, still forcing a smile, said, "Well, Harrison, it's always interesting having you here." Ford didn't blink. "Interesting is the polite word," he muttered. Then Jimmy tried to wrap the segment with a signature lighthearted remark. "Let's hear it one more time for Harrison Ford. Grumpy, but legendary." But Ford stood up. Before the cue, removed his mic and said into it, "I've had enough of the clown show." He walked off stage without a backward glance. The audience gave a scattered reaction, unsure whether to clap or remain stunned. As soon as the commercial break hit, chaos erupted behind the scenes. Producers scrambled, staff huddled, and the next guest was brought in early. On social media, however, the damage was already done. Clips from the broadcast went viral within minutes. Viewers couldn't stop talking about the unscripted tension. Some fans praised Ford for speaking his mind, calling the moment iconic. Others criticized him for being disrespectful. But one thing was certain. The episode was unlike anything late-night TV had seen in a long time. Jimmy made a brief apology at the end of the show, calling the situation unfortunate but live television. In the hours that followed, Ford's representatives declined to comment, saying only that Mr. Ford said what he meant. Kimmel's team released a softer statement, referring to Harrison as a beloved guest, and suggesting the tension was part of a passionate conversation. But insiders leaked that producers were furious. The incident had sparked a debate inside the network. Some believed Harrison's bluntness could attract a new kind of audience. Others saw it as a breach of professionalism. But for Ford, it was just another moment of truth in a career defined by rejecting pretense. He'd always been too real for Hollywood's plastic smiles. The fallout grew larger over the next day. Media outlets picked up the story, each with its own spin. One labeled Harrison as a relic who can't adapt. Another called him the last honest man in Hollywood. Panel shows dissected every word, every look, while fan forums exploded with support. A trending tweet read, "Harrison Ford didn't get kicked off Kimmel. He walked off because he doesn't fake it for ratings." Meanwhile, the show's rerun was mysteriously pulled from its usual time slot. Rumors swirled that Kimmel had personally called Ford to apologize, though neither side confirmed it. Whatever the truth, the moment had burned itself into public memory. By the weekend, the story evolved into a broader cultural discussion. People debated whether celebrities had the right to reject scripted interviews and challenge hosts. Some called it the Ford moment, a backlash against forced entertainment. Surprisingly, several other actors spoke up in support, subtly nodding to how often talk shows push boundaries under the guise of humor. Harrison, for his part, remained silent. He was spotted days later at a remote airfield, flying one of his beloved planes as if nothing had happened. That was Ford's way. Say your truth, walk away, and let the storm spin without you. In the end, the legacy of the confrontation lived far beyond that one episode. Jimmy Kimmel's show returned to normal, but the ghost of that evening lingered. Harrison Ford had shown a side of celebrity rarely seen, unfiltered, raw, and unwilling to play along. Whether people saw it as rude or brave, it exposed how tightly managed public images are, and what happens when someone refuses to play the game. For millions who watched, it wasn't just late-night drama. It was a reminder that even in an age of rehearsed laughs and scripted fun, authenticity still has the power to shock. And sometimes walking away speaks louder than applause.